What's going on, everyone? My name's Alex. That's Eileen. You're watching Straight to the Chicane podcast. And this week we're going to be talking about the French GP. And officially the first double podium for Mercedes. The first double podium for Mercedes this year.
The first George and Lewis podium.
Yeah.
So.
Not quite 1 and 2 yet, but the team's looking good, looking strong this week.
Yeah, we've been saying it, I feel like, the last few races.
Yeah, a little bit of luck went their way. Although, if you have seen, Lewis had a really good start.
Well, he did. I think that they're there when they need to be there.
Yeah.
And they know how to capitalize on other teams' misfortunes.
Well, honestly,
or reliability issues.
You brought up a good point here. Ferrari has had a car with an engine problem. A Ferrari engine has been out at least every race except for Bahrain.
Yes, so we're 12 rounds in, and 11 out of 12 rounds, a Ferrari-powered car has retired from the race.
Sheesh.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
We had one where Baku, there was 4 Ferrari-powered engines. Today we had one. Last week we had Carlos' engine on fire. So we've had a Ferrari reliability issue this year.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You're right about that. Going into this week, a lot of talk online about the French GP not being the best race. You know, it's kind of a boring race typically.
Well, it's up for question if it's going to be on the calendar next year.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of strong pull for it not to be. What do you think?
I really would not be sad to not see it be there next year.
Yeah,
not gonna lie.
I think some people put it right that it's really, as a spectator, it's hard to see individual turns or where they're located on the track because the whole entire track all looks the same. There's mazes of other bits and pieces of track, and then there's the blue lines and the red lines everywhere, and everything kind of looks the same.
There's like 10,000 different variations of this track.
Which is cool, but the thing is there's only one variation for F1.
But the best part of today was when I was like, what if you just drove straight through there and the moment I said it, Pierre Gasly ran off the track and went through the bollards.
He did it the correct way. He did it correct, and you got to see it how it is.
Yeah,
it's kind of similar to Monza.
Kind of ironic. I'm like, oh my God. But it's a more of a boring track. And I remember last year saying the French GP is going to be super boring. We went into it thinking, oh my God, the circuit, like just the hype. You know,
I think last year was a special year too, and we were proven. I was proven wrong a lot last year.
Yeah, no, I know, and I think that's why we all have 2022 expectations for it to be something different. Yeah. So, it wasn't as good as it was last year, but it was pretty good. I mean, I was held captive, especially at the end of the race.
Yeah, me, not so much. I think I kind of closed my eyes here and there in the beginning part of the race, and then I was able to pay attention for the rest.
Well, you were like sleeping during lap 1.
Yeah, it was really early, you know.
Not really. This is not even the earliest.
No, I know, but we had a good weekend. And
he's tired. We had a long night. We had a wedding, so.
Yeah. So, didn't really get to pay attention to the beginning part of it. I did see the first lap, obviously. The lights out and away they went, and it looked great.
You were snoring on the formation lap. That was the best. And then you're like, here we go. And I was like, I know. I'm awake. You're not. So
I know how to time myself really well.
You just hear Crofty's voice, and it gets you going.
Yeah, so. I do. I prefer the Crofty international broadcast over
who doesn't?
Formula One currently. Although last year it was called Pit Lane Channel on the Formula One TV app, and I really enjoyed that one. However, this is a little different this year, and I'm not.
No, you liked the Pit Lane Channel. I feel like Rosanna was doing Pit Lane Channel.
Yeah, there was a little bit more commentary.
And Alex.
And Sam.
Yeah.
So it was just a little different. And this year, when I rewatch the race, I rewatch it with the different broadcasts so I can hear both different versions.
Yeah.
So it makes it feel like I'm watching two different things.
I feel like it's customary to watch Crofty.
100%.
He's got to be.
Martin Brundle, yeah.
They have to be the ones that announce like the beginning of the race.
Yeah.
If they don't, if something feels wrong.
And then they always go to Ted Kravitz a lot, and he seemed to have some issues with his headphones and his microphone.
I'll
this
give him a
weekend.
break. He was changing out his mic pack.
Oh, I know that happened, but I mean, even during practice this week, there was a couple times they went to him, and he was just not responsive. But that was just because he was getting information from teams. So it was just kind of funny moments to bring that up.
Yeah.
So going into this week, we had a week off prior, so there was time off, and these are the last two this race, and then we got one more race coming up. That's before our big summer break. So what news did we have? Anything coming into this week that?
Well, I think the big news is like the pivotal. What's going to happen with the regulation change for porpoising, the technical change. So we've got 5 teams right now that are forming a dispute.
It's 5 teams?
It's 5 teams.
Okay.
So it's Red Bull, Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, Williams. What's the 5th team? Who am I missing?
Aston Martin?
No.
McLaren?
No.
You said Red Bull?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know. So it's so the teams that it's not is Mercedes.
It's Haas.
Okay.
I'm like, it's all 3 Ferraris.
All 3 Ferraris, and then Red Bull and.
Or it's AlphaTauri. God, holy moly!
You said AlphaTauri.
No, I said Alfa Romeo.
Oh.
I said one of the Alphas. But
Okay.
Yes.
So
there's
they already kind of pushed back the timing of when they needed to conform to the new regulations. They've already gave it until I guess the summer break. So when they come back from summer break, the new regs need to take place. We should see a little bit of a difference, I bet.
Well, we're expecting that it's going to benefit Mercedes. That's why it's a huge thing.
Yeah. Well, they're the ones that kind of started the whole thing, I believe.
They did because they're having the most issues with porpoising.
Well, they were, and they wanted.
Where the rest of the teams are like, well, just raise your floor height.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about like what is it?
So
what's the regulation change?
So essentially, there's right
sensors.
now there's 2 little wear plates. That's what they measure. The FIA measures 2 wear plates. I believe I could be correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys know more than me, I believe it's one on the front and one on the back, and they just measure from those 2 wear plates.
Yeah.
And now the new regulations are going to be there's more wear plates throughout the whole entire floorboard. That's a titanium. It looks like a wooden plank. It looks like.
I think it's like they're supposed to be in specific areas, like only allowed, but they've found like a lot of these teams have specifically found ways to place them strategically other places. And so they've mastered their
they're able to work around those wear spots. So they were able to separate the front and back part of the floor a little bit and have it wear differently, so that when porpoising was happening or bringing it down to closest to the floor, they were able to kind of manipulate that a little bit better than other teams. And so I guess it's
it's so funny because like Mercedes is having the biggest issues, so they're fighting for this change to happen, of course.
But remember a few years ago they had DAS.
And they did, yes.
And every other team was like, oh, that's not fair. They're doing something.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, Ferrari has had a pretty big problem with porpoising too. Like they were, I remember at the beginning of the season.
You're right. It was
Leclerc was having crazy porpoising. I mean, McLaren's had a decent amount too, but Red Bull is like the only team I haven't seen it on at all. Because Pierre has had it majorly at AlphaTauri. So it's like, there's been a lot of teams that have been affected by it. So you'd think they'd be fighting for the change. But Red Bull is like solid. Like their car has not had any issues. Well, besides the beginning of the season, but they've fixed that reliability piece with their engine.
They have, and they seem like they're doing pretty good. They're going to be a tough team to beat this year.
Well, yeah. They're running away with the championship.
They are running away
with
the championship. Both, yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So kind of watching some practice. Practice 1, we got to see a rookie driver in Lewis's seat.
I wouldn't say he's a rookie.
No, but I mean, so he's never been in Formula 1, and so they classify it as a rookie driver.
So every team has to have, each driver gives one FP1 session to like their reserve driver. Yeah. Okay.
Well, not even a reserve driver, to an up-and-coming driver.
Or like a junior driver.
A junior driver.
Because we see that with Red Bull.
But the thing is even a professional driver, because there's guys that are in IndyCar series that are considered professional drivers here in America. They're getting opportunities too now.
Okay.
I mean, we saw McLaren sign an IndyCar driver to his Formula 1 team, and they are going to let him test. So there's There's a lot of stuff that's going on with. I can't think of the name off the top of my head right now.
What's the IndyCar driver for McLaren that's like super popular right now?
Patrick O'Ward.
Yeah, he was on the podium this weekend for IndyCar,
which is a great, talented driver, worthy of an F1 seat, possibly.
Yeah, we might see him in the future.
And then there's another guy that they just signed him, and the name, I can't think of the name right now.
No, but it was pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. Like, should Nick DeVries be in Formula One? Is he better than Oscar Piastri? He won Formula
E last year.
He did,
and that was his rookie year for Formula E. Because he had a pretty good season in Formula 2. He was right there too.
Yeah, I would like to see Oscar Piastri have a seat in F1 next year.
Well, I think he deserves it more than
he's the up and coming.
He is. He's also followed in the same footsteps as some of other champions that he won Formula 3.
Yep.
Rookie year, won right into Formula 2, won Formula 2.
Yeah.
His rookie year, and the only other thing he can do is go up to Formula 1 and give himself a shot.
And I think he'll do a good job. So I'm excited to see him because I would assume that he's probably going to be doing an FP whatever session 1 or 2 this year. So that'll be good to see. But Nick DeVries actually he did pretty good. He was P9 and FP1. He was
for a moment he was in 4th, which
for a moment he was.
You know, it's hard to say with like their team's gas.
They're just gathering data.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's impressive. You know.
Yeah, but I know he had a great time. He's like, oh my God, the cars were fast. So great to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see later. George will obviously choose his session to have somebody. And we've got a lot more people. I know Robert Kubica or Kubica. I always say it wrong.
Yeah.
He, same thing, was FP1 for Bottas this weekend.
Yeah, and so he's not even, he's a reserve driver.
Yeah.
So he's not a junior driver or a rookie driver, and that means, but, they use their reserve.
Right.
So practice was kind of here and there. We kind of saw how things were going to kind of go, you know.
All we knew was it was going to be hot. Like, there's a heat wave going on.
Well, there's a heat wave everywhere. I think the northern hemisphere from, North America all the way over to the UK and over into France, and it's just been hot everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though I'm wearing a hoodie, I'm inside. We're one of the fortunate ones.
We're in the AC.
America has a lot of people that have AC. Compared, I was telling her, apparently only 1% of the people in the UK have air conditioning.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine surviving a summer without air conditioning.
Yeah, we're lucky.
Yeah. I would totally be Lando in the inflatable pool if we did not have air conditioning every day, just laying there. Like, help me. I'm hot. So, yeah, we knew it was going to be hot. We knew that the tire temperatures were going to be an issue. Like, what was it going to look like? In Austria, we saw that Red Bull had an issue with
degrading tires.
Yeah. And then this weekend we obviously saw like Ferrari was having issues. So we just expected it was going to be crazy. Yeah. With the tires bubbling. So
I did. I mean, I was like, oh man, maybe there's something they can do, shift, to different tires or something. But they didn't. And they honestly, I was surprised that they went off on the softs for qualifying in Q3. I didn't think that the tires were even worthy, but they were held up for at least 2 laps. The warm-up lap or whatever.
That's like the max that they could do.
Yeah.
That's the max they could do. So.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I guess the only other big piece we heard, so we had a couple of people take engine penalties. So we had, surprise, 2 Ferrari-powered engine penalties this weekend. So Carlos, which we expected, obviously, after last weekend, his whole, car catching on fire. Yeah. He first going into, I think it was FP1, then FP2, we just knew he was going to be taking a few parts.
Yeah, for a 10 place.
But then it was like, it's rumored he's going to be taking a whole, new PU, and he'll obviously be starting at the back of the grid. So then we heard about Magnussen.
Yeah.
So we had both of them starting back. So we didn't really know what it was going to look like for qualifying. Are they both going to go through? Are they going to sit in the garage? Are they going to protect themselves? Or like what it was going to look like? So, going into qualifying, I mean, both cars looked strong. Q1, Q2.
Yeah, I kind of thought Ferrari was going to do something strategically.
Well, they did. You know what? And they did.
Because they did it in Q1 too.
Yeah, and Ferrari Carlos, let's quote Carlos, gets a lot of criticism for their strategy. which they have this season.
I give them a lot of criticism,
Listen, this is before the race, so let's not criticize them just yet.
Yeah.
But they did get it right in qualifying.
They got it right in qualifying, and then then they're getting the clown suits for the race.
Oh my God, I know. They were like, "Oh my God, we're feeling ourselves. We're making good moves. I don't want to reveal too much, but we're making good changes."
Yeah, they're having ups and downs. They're having definitely some engine issues across their whole entire.
There's something wrong with their
board
engines,
of like their customer base is also having some issues with their engines as well.
Okay, good to know. When I have the money, I will choose not to buy a Ferrari, I guess then.
I don't know. Their land cars their street cars are pretty nice.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah,
of course.
Okay.
If I have the money, I won't have a problem if there's an issue with the engine because I'll just figure it out and get it fixed.
Sure, you probably could. So. Practice, not so much. Anything big?
Yeah, nothing crazy. Qualifying was pretty standard. The only disappointing thing I think for Q1 was it's the French Grand Prix, so our two home racers, Gasly and Ocon. Really wanted to see them do well. Both of them potentially being the points.
Yeah.
Gasly was out in Q1, so that was tough to see. And AlphaTauri brought a big upgrade package this weekend.
Gasly, what's up with him this season?
I don't know. I'm like. Last year, he was like in the top for me for like drivers of the year.
He was that, and he was definitely in the midfield, really a top guy in the midfield, and now he's at the. I would put him at the top of the lower third.
I would put him right around with Ricciardo.
I think Ricciardo's still a little notch better because he's had a little bit more better performances in here and there, I think.
I know, but they're both really great drivers, and I just feel like they're just not having the season that they want to have or that they're capable of.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah.
So, but I think for Ricciardo is like getting more in tune with this car. Like he's, kind of finding the balance a little bit more. Like today, I feel like he had a good race. He was on pace with Norris. They were pretty much together the entire race. But Gasly, it was a tough race. Yuki outperformed him. For the beginning.
until he DNF'd.
I know. Well, he did. He out-qualified him.
He did out-qualify him, and
which is
he
unusual
was unlucky.
to see.
He got hit by somebody too.
Yeah, he got yeeted by Ocon.
Yeah. So Ocon knocked him out a little bit.
Yeah. So, he stayed in the race. It was kind of similar to, like, Perez last race, where he got hit on lap 1, had the damage on his side, and
they were able to continue on, but they had some performance
just, like, losing too much performance, so they ended up finally retiring him. So, he was one of the DNFs, but...
So I guess we can talk a little bit about qualifying then, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Well, we just talked about qualifying Q1.
I know, so might as well continue that. We noticed that Q1 that Ferrari did try to do a little bit of with Carlos. He was definitely given the slipstream, and Q2 kind of came in, no slipstream that time. They both made it through.
Couldn't line it up right.
Yeah, probably not. It seemed like there was some timing issues for a couple teams.
Listen, there was a point where I thought both Mercedes were going to be out in Q2.
There was.
They were both in the bottom in the drop zone, and I'm like, is Russell about to be out? And now is Hamilton about to be out?
Yeah, they both got in
So, crazy to see. We did see Mick, who potentially qualified through to Q2. He had track limits, so he got dropped into Q1.
Yeah, and his team Haas, they kept him in the car, they kept him ready to go. They refilled the car. They were fighting it. They told him, "Hey, stay in the car. We're gonna try and get you back out." And then, there was just no way. He was clearly off. Unfortunately, these new rules and the way they're
well, they're proving a point with track limits,
and that's fine. I think that's the goal now.
Well, as long as they're consistent, but it's just like, I don't know. It is a little crazy.
Well, I think it's starting to get more consistent.
It is, and that's, I think, why the drivers are a little bit confused. But it's important for consistency, so we've got to maintain, like, those rules. Like, we've got to be race to race. If it's the white line, then it's the white line everywhere.
And Crofty asked the question in the drivers' conferences to a couple of the drivers. Sebastian Vettel answered the question, and he said, you can't really feel a white line. You can feel the curb. You can feel when you go too far over the curb, just on the curb. It's a lot easier to feel the curb with the car than it is to see the white line, which you can't even see over the tires and over the wheel wings or whatever you want to call the little covers, which makes sense. But then I've also heard the announcer say, I believe it was during qualifying, that look, you stay off the white lines when it's raining because it's slippery on there. You know how to stay off those then. Why are you continuing to go on them? So there's a little bit to be said, However, I do agree completely that it needs to be the white line. It needs to be more consistent,
Right. No, I do agree. I mean, it's tough because obviously different conditions are going to be trickier.
Yeah.
And everybody just says, they're like, okay, well, if we're going to be track limits like crazy, then put a gravel trap in. Like, put something then that's going to be more significant for drivers to stay off of. So, we'll see if tracks change or, like, layouts change.
I don't think...
Given.
Well, I don't think too many will. I think some can. A track like France, like here this weekend, it was never meant to be a true race, like a racing track. It was meant to be. It was meant to be a testing track. The reason why they did that was because they have big, huge, wide fallout areas that the car doesn't go into gravel, get damaged. The only thing that gets damaged when they go off track is the tires.
Right.
Typically, other than what happened with Leclerc, which was like a kind of a weird accident, and he kind of lost control completely. And even the damage of the car wasn't that bad. Like if he would have maybe was able to reverse out, he might have been able to keep the car going. We don't know.
I know.
So
we'll see. Who knows? France probably isn't even going to be on the circuit next year.
I mean,
on the calendar.
I think they need to rethink that whole entire track. Again, I know it wasn't meant to be a true, high spectacle F1 track. It just happened to work out that way a few years ago when they decided to start coming there, because they've gone to other places in France, and that's fine. Let's check out those old places again.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be a testing track because it has a little bit. It has long straights, has high speed corners and low speed corners. It has like pretty much all of the corners that you kind of experience with Formula One. And again, like they have 1,000 different layouts for different types of events. They do like
GP Moto, all sorts of stuff. I mean, we saw the W Series was there this weekend, so I mean, there's a lot. We'll see. It has not been confirmed whether or not it will be for 2023. Speculation is that it will not be on the calendar, but it is between. So we have not gotten confirmation on Monaco, Spa, and France for next year.
Yeah.
And the rumor is, of course, we've already confirmed we're adding Las Vegas in the States. But
I hope that's not a parking lot race.
That Africa.
Or a car lot race or whatever they call it.
Will be on the calendar. So we'll have Africa on the calendar. So that will be great to see.
Yeah.
But so we'll see. But yes, I agree. I think Las Vegas is going to be a money-making weekend. My God, we can only imagine. I mean, it's going to bring in, like, just the celebrities, the amount of people. Like, even we see in Austin.
It's a stone throws away from L.A.
It's going to be crazy. I mean, just a quick private jet. If I had a PJ, I'd be flying in if I lived in L.A., so.
You don't even need to. It's literally a 4-hour drive, too, through the desert.
But if I was rich, I'd be flying in. So just like we see, there's like memes and videos all over after an F1 race in Austin, like the airport of just private jets taking off.
Leaving it,
Not even just like celebrities coming in, but just billionaires and people coming in to see it. So Formula One in the States is a big deal. So, I mean, we all know that. So.
It's blowing up. You're right about that. I think it's almost to the peak. They say a couple more years, and I can see it taking a couple more years. But yeah, it's getting there for sure. And it's good to see this sport do well because, I think soccer is a good sport too. However, it's not taking off. There's teams here in America, there's professional teams. However, it's nothing compared to football. And I think these are starting to get on a level because the way Formula One is treating all their events, they're trying to be Super Bowl-like events every weekend that they race. Yeah. And they kind of are. They have some celebrity bands, musicians. Oh my God,
there's concerts, there's events, there's like celebrities hosting events. There's all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So
it's definitely treated like a Super Bowl weekend everywhere around the world, which
pretty
is
amazing.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
So let's get back to that Q3 that we were talking about, because Q3 was kind of the best part of the thing, because we got to witness a true Ricky Bobby slingshot action.
I feel like we have not seen this since Abu Dhabi of last year, because this year we have not seen like team where they're like, okay, you get the toe this weekend, I get the toe next weekend. Like, I'm used to seeing that consistently where it's like, okay, one driver goes out in front, or the lead driver is always getting the toe every weekend. And I've been saying this, I feel like I said it on a previous like race that we talked about. We have not seen the toe really be utilized until Ferrari this weekend.
Yeah, they did it right. They
did it 100% right.
They did it on the back straight, and they had Carlos going all the way to Q3, even though he was going to start at the back of the grid. So he was just there to be the team player.
Yeah.
And
we were, like kind of expecting to see, of course, like if Schumacher would have made it through.
Yeah.
But also just at the end of the day, he's trying to get track position over Magnussen, which, essentially they're starting next to each other. But yeah, we saw the true perfect teamwork, the definition of teamwork.
Yeah. We saw Carlos going out kind of slow, literally probably a second and a half slower per sector until they got to the back there. And then they lined up really well. They were even closer than I thought, but it was because I figured, it was going to be a slipstream for a big chunk of it, but it was literally just for the straight.
No, I thought the same thing, because when they went out, I'm like, why is Carlos so far ahead? Like, you can't, like, Charles is like far behind.
They just did it for that back straightaway and timed it really well. Because he was what was it, a second faster?
No, he was like
8.8.
No, he was like 0.2 faster than Max.
No, it was 0.3 maybe.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what it was.
It was either 2 or 3 tenths, but I mean, Ferrari and Red Bull were like a second ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
So qualifying was, at the front. First of all, I don't know if Charles would have gotten pole position ahead of Max if he did not have the toe. So it was, Charles even said it, like, thank you, immediately on the team radio, like, to Carlos, like, great teamwork. But Max was, he, like, his second lap, he didn't improve. He wasn't even, like, personal best or anything. So it was a tough second lap for him, but he was still so quick all weekend, so. But Charles definitely benefited.
Yeah, Sergio didn't really look as good this weekend compared to Max. He was much slower.
Sergio was having an off weekend.
He was not even on
practice. He was not looking well.
This might not be his track,
I think up until Q3, he wasn't performing as strong as he typically would, like being in line with Max.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen him outperform Max, so it was kind of unusual to see. But he was right there. He qualified P3, so.
I know, but it's still a little bit off, compared to what he has done or he has placed pole,
100%.
So, so that kind of brought us into the top contenders for qualifying, which was Leclerc with a very stellar fast
with
qualifying.
His 16th pole.
Then we had Max, and then we had Sergio, and then right behind him was
Lewis.
Yeah, which is looking good.
Lewis, Lando, and then George. So 3 Brits in a row.
They did
Lando was in a Mercedes sandwich.
Yep.
So
to start the race.
We saw that. Of course, we saw Magnussen and Carlos kind of move back. So we saw people shift up. So Ocon moving up, Ricciardo moving up. So, some adjustments moving into the starting lineup for today for the race. But
it was definitely moved a couple teams forward. A couple guys got to get into the points, because I remember Ricciardo, he was like 11th, and he was pushed into P9 to start the race, which where he started, where he finished.
Where he started, where he finished, yeah.
That kind of seemed to be a little bit of the notion for today as well, for the race. A lot of guys finished where they started.
You're so against today's race.
I'm not really a fan. It was a little boring. I'm not going to lie.
It was not that boring. Monaco, Monaco 1,000% was more boring.
Well,
1,000% fight me.
But that's because they didn't start the race on time. If they would have started the race on time, the race would have been.
Take out the rain delay. Take out the rain delay. Besides, shocking Ferrari messing up the strategy and the double stack for Leclerc here.
Yeah.
Monaco is by far more boring.
Yeah, okay.
And we had a safety car, a VSC. I
still
enjoy
I enjoy the Monaco weekend more than I enjoyed this France weekend. And that's just the truth.
Well, yeah, duh, because it's Monaco.
I don't know. I mean...
I am not going to fight to keep the French GP over Monaco 1,000%.
Okay.
I will not. Monaco, for sure. But I do think that the French GP was more exciting than Monaco.
Okay, so if we had...
Fight me. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not going to fight you. All right, so I guess we can start talking about the race then, huh? I don't want to fight.
I guess I won.
Yeah, sure.
So, no, I mean, honestly, I feel like, yes, it's not the most exciting weekend when you watch the race highlights and it's only 6 minutes.
That's right.
So there was not a whole lot. Trust me, I get it.
So the race highlight was about 6 minutes, but the driver's press conference for post race was over 20 minutes.
It was, but that's because anytime there's Lewis is in there, they want to ask him a million questions. So,
well, sure.
It was a big weekend for Lewis, so I feel like we haven't really mentioned that. Today was his 300th Grand Prix.
And he said at first, he's like, I didn't even care.
He forgets about it. He does forget about the statistics a lot.
Well,
you know, like, how many race wins do I have? But today was his 300th win. He's only the 6th driver to ever achieve that, in Formula One history. So, obviously, he has a contract through the end of next year, so a lot more to come for him. But he got his 187th podium today, which makes it 62% of his races that he's entered in Formula One, he's ended on the podium.
He's got to be the best. That's got to be number one.
You know, I didn't check.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll have to check Formula One statistics. One of my favorite accounts to follow. They always have all the details.
You know, and I even hear the announcers talk about them too.
No, super exciting. Last weekend was probably one of the biggest ones. They had announced about Lando. I think we shared it on our episode as well. But yeah, they always have the details. Like they had the details right after the race about Ferrari's PU issues, all sorts of stuff. So if you're not following them already, follow us and then follow them. But yeah, big weekend for Lewis. So yeah. He also, he hasn't achieved it yet, but he has the capability to beat the record of anybody who has met or got to 300 races, has never won a race.
So that's something that he's got to get.
Well, we know that Lewis is going to achieve that.
Yeah.
So he had his best.
It's just a matter of time. Again, we keep saying it.
Yes.
For sure. So let's get this race going because lap one, again, she said I was sleeping for the formation lap. Sure. When we went lights out, we had some really good starts. Leclerc got off good. Max got off all right. And Lewis got off really well because he popped right into third pretty much right away.
Yeah, he was about to be alongside Max for a second there. You know who else had a great start?
Yeah.
Alonso.
Alonso was right there, too.
I was like, who's this Alpine coming up? Oh, my God.
Yeah, he was definitely had a really good start.
Great start from Alonso.
Then, so the top 6 kind of spanned out and kind of were getting away. We saw a couple of people go wide, and then we saw Tsunoda kind of get ran into a little bit by Ocon.
Yeah. Which resulted in our 5-second penalty for him.
A 5-second penalty for sure. And then that was about it for the first lap. Everything kind of spaced out and kind of got into a rhythm there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I guess the biggest question of the day was, is it going to be a 1-stopper? Is it going to be a 2-stopper? We only saw Max do a 2-stopper last year. Well, I guess that mattered in the front running. This year, we just didn't know with the temperature. So, we saw a couple cars pit early, but it was Haas. Probably, post-race, not the best decision for them. They both pitted early. Yeah. And Magnussen had a great start, too. Not to mention that. I was a little concerned at first for Carlos, considering they both started at the back. Magnussen from P20 to P13 in 2 laps.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. And Carlos was kind of lagging behind a little bit, but I think he was playing it safe. He didn't want to get into any of the drama. He didn't want to, get into any of those crazy things. So we saw Haas pit first. Then we saw Max pit next. Kind of going in for, is he going to pull the undercut?
Yeah, because
what's about to happen?
They were just calling. They put up there. It was laps 13 to 15s for the medium tires. And
it was like max lap 18 if you want to do a one strategy.
Yeah, and I don't think one strategy was a way to go for this. Some people were trying.
Well, Max did it.
I know, but man, yeah, with 10 seconds to do too. You're right. I guess that was the move, mediums and hards, because we saw that was the mistake. I think that possibly. I don't know if it was maybe it wasn't a mistake actually. Carlos started on the hards from the back, and he kind of started off a little slow. Took him a minute to start passing people.
Yeah.
And really, I don't think he really was making huge moves until he got onto those mediums.
Yeah, no. I mean, he definitely had the advantage. New engine.
Yeah.
On the mediums, he was cutting through the midfield. He was making moves. So, but Max came in. It was like the first opening 12 laps. It was the battle between Max trying to chase Leclerc.
Yeah.
Is he going to catch him? Then it was Perez. Is he going to get past Hamilton? And we just didn't see a whole lot of crazy movement. They were getting close, almost getting there, but nothing just yet. So I think they tried to cool their tires a little bit, which was good, okay, strategy. But then Max came in. Were we going to see Leclerc come in? Which we didn't. We heard Max on the radio, tell me, where is he at? Is he coming in? What's going on? No one was talking to him. And then it was immediately that lap, we hear Leclerc's engineer say, hey, take care of these tires, as he's spinning.
He's seconds ahead.
He's 10.5 seconds ahead of Hamilton.
He's wide going into the turn, which honestly, I don't even know what turn. I think it was turn 4, but everything looks the same, so I don't know what turn it truly was. And he's going wide. It's like a 100-mile-an-hour turn, and he's wide. And he's in some area that is, he's not on the racing line for sure. He's trying to get back on the racing line, so he's kind of pushing it a little bit and just loses the rear end.
And of course, naturally speaking to F1 TV, we don't see what happens. So we're watching, and Max is at P6, just overtook Alonso, and he's way back. What's going on? And yellow flag, sector 3. Who is it? Who is it?
Oh, who is it?
We don't know. It's a Ferrari. Is it Leclerc? Is it Sainz? We don't know. It's and then it took forever to cut to him. Forever.
It did. And honestly, if you guys haven't seen it yet, after you guys are done watching this, go to WTF, watch the reaction from Matt. Because they were doing a live Twitch feed during the races, which they do.
Every race.
And
he is by far the biggest Leclerc fan.
He is the top Leclerc fan in the YouTube world for sure. And his reaction's really good.
Yes.
I think it was slightly better than even Leclerc's reaction.
I don't know. I am I literally was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
How is he in the barriers? There's no one around. There's no one challenging him.
And this type of track where it's hard to get in the barriers,
and
he just really lost it.
Here's the thing, and I've said this on previous episodes. I have been completely critical of Charles Leclerc.
Yeah. You're like,
forever.
I don't know. He always makes mistakes.
I don't know. He always crashes. I don't know.
Mistakes.
Literally maybe I cursed it. Going into France, I was like, you know what? I really would love to see Charles win. He's a great driver, and I would love to see him win the World Championship. I feel like he can do it.
Yeah, he's a good driver.
So going into today, I'm like, all right, I don't have him in my predictions to crash. Why did you let me down?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he maybe jinxed him. I don't know. He was pushing the limits. Those tires were starting to get worn. He maybe could have won another couple laps.
He might have hit some dirty part of the track on one of the tires. I think he had some blistering on the front tires.
Yeah,
I
they
think
weren't looking great.
Yeah, he needed to pit that lap. But to be quite honest, very, very tough to see him. Very tough. Sorry. Apparently it's a torrential downpour outside.
It just came out of nowhere, honestly.
But tough to see him crash out. I do love that he is very, he does not place blame on anybody. I mean, I know we've seen it in the past with some of, the pit calls, but he owned that mistake today. And that, to me, is impressive.
Yeah, he's
very self-critical.
Yeah,
but he needs to not be so hard on himself because he's a great driver. And I guarantee he'll come back with a vengeance, so.
Yeah, he will. I think he's still in it. He has made a good point though that if this happens again, or if it gets to the end and he's 32 points or 34 points behind, he knows where those mistakes were, and this was one of those mistakes that he made to kind of ruin it for him. So I think he needs to self-analyze this.
So he's 63 points behind. Do you think he can win this?
We're only halfway through.
Do you think he can win this?
I think he's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I don't think he can.
I think he's close. I think there's a chance.
I don't think he can, and it really disappoints me because I want to see the good battle, but I will tell you this, as much as we're sitting here full decked with Mercedes gear, last year when Lewis was DQ'd in Brazil, I thought it was over. And it wasn't fucking over.
You know what? It wasn't.
Excuse my language.
It wasn't over. It wasn't over. And all the analysis gave us all the different ways it could happen.
Oh, the social media comments. And like, I think, it's over. Championship is in the bag. Yeah. So we need Charles to get that same hunger.
And he still has it. I think he, look, he's gonna get through this weekend and probably take summer break here after the next race and really think about what he needs to do, because he needs to come back stronger than ever.
Yes.
And I think his teammate needs to kind of help support that now. I think he's more in support.
Well, he is.
He's more in a full supporting role.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, they're not very far off. I tell you what, P2 in the Drivers' Championship is
close.
Up for grabs with 4 or 5 drivers.
I know. You're right.
Lewis, George, Carlos, Perez, Leclerc.
We'll see what happens.
All of them.
Okay, we'll see what happens then.
Yeah, nobody right now can tell me any different. I don't know who's going to be P2. So, speaking of the championships and the battle at the end of the year, part of that kind of came down to what happened with George and Perez. So we saw a pretty valiant battle between Checo and George.
Okay, so you're talking about the dive bomb that George made on the inside. And I think
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the safety car restart when he ended up passing him.
Sure. The safety car restart Sergio was sleeping.
Well, according to Sergio, he didn't have the right information for the restart.
Well, before the safety
whose
car
fault is that?
Before the safety car came out, they were under a second. Every turn, they were getting within a few.
Ever since
cars.
George tried to pass Checo in that corner, they were quick. Right there.
They were all within a second. DRS was engaged with George. George had it every single time, and then the safety car came out. So they were within a second. So when the safety car so they had to stay with.
So are you saying that George didn't have the right of way in that turn?
I don't think George was in the correct spot to have that spot.
So according to George, the regulations are that if your front wheel going in the inside of a turn is ahead of their rear wheel, you have the right of way.
Yeah. Well, then
let's talk back to Silverstone 2021.
If that's the case, then yes, he was in the right spot, and he probably had every right there.
So I mean, I think they both got pinched. Luckily, they both didn't. Thank God there was no major accident. But I think there was. Hey, it wasn't up for investigation. It was a racing incident.
Yeah.
So they determined that. But anyway, so they got close, and then it was the safety car restart.
It was the virtual safety car because they were forced to stay. They were forced to stay with a certain distance within their delta, and when the virtual safety car goes green, it can be anywhere on the track. It doesn't really matter.
Which we saw George kind of, I think, cooling his tires and then trying to warm them back up.
He kind of played it cool, kind of slowed down, created a bigger gap, probably the tail end of what his delta needed to be, and then he just laid on the gas and timed it perfectly. It's kind of like when we're in the streets and we see the red light coming up and we're slowly slowing down, but we have the free lane,
way to put it.
right? And then we see it go green and we just smash the gas and we pass everybody quickly. That's what he did. He passed them.
Look at you. We're always thinking about how can we be F1 drivers in the streets.
Hey, when I slipstream behind a truck or a car, I go right up to their butt and then come over.
I know.
So.
Which makes me nervous in real life, but also in races. But yeah, so we saw a pretty epic battle there. I mean, whether or not you're on the George or you're on the Checo side of that turn incident.
Sure.
They also had a pretty good battle there, and George did get past him. Pure pace was able to keep him behind. Mm-hmm. So tough weekend for Checo, but I'm sure we'll see him back bigger than ever next week. But that made it a double podium for Mercedes.
He did.
Like we started this episode.
And 10 seconds up the road was Max.
For his 27th win.
Which is pretty good for... He's only been in this since, 2015? So he's doing pretty good for a young guy.
He is, yes. And when you think of it statistically from, like, how many poles he's had this year and how many poles Charles has had, Max is just taking the cake. So no surprise he's running away with the 63-point advantage.
Yeah.
But for another weekend in a row, Mercedes outbeats Ferrari, who at this point, I think it's 43 points, and that's it, the gap from P2 to P3 in the Constructors. So I have said it before, and I will say it again, Mercedes will be beating Ferrari at the end of this year.
Wow. That's pretty bold.
You listen, I called Mercedes to win at the beginning of the season.
I think they got a lot of consistency going on. That's going to allow them to get...
I don't think they're going to win. I think that Red Bull...
It's gone. In the Constructors' Cup, Red Bull is gone.
In the Constructors, unless both drivers get COVID and they can't race.
Yeah, I told you too. Yeah, there would have to be pure anarchy at Red Bull.
I am not sure how they could lose this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. At this point, I'm not sure how Max can lose this. But
I think there's still a possibility in the Drivers' Championship.
I know how Ferrari can lose this. And
well, they're showing it. They're having issues.
We have been rooting for Ferrari. We have been.
That's because
really
you're not the hugest fan of Red Bull, honestly. You know,
I'm not.
You know, you always cringe when Christian Horner comes on.
Please.
And I get it. I mean, look, Red Bull, they are the David versus Goliath with Mercedes, especially last year's drama that had happened in stuff like that, you know. So I get it. I understand.
Yeah, true. But I mean, I know like Charles has been very patient at Ferrari. He's been waiting for this moment. He's been waiting to have a good car.
Him. Yeah, I mean, he's got the long contract.
Carlos, love him. Been waiting for it. Like, you know, so I'm like, but I also love Checo. So it's tough. Max is a great driver. He's the defending world champion.
Yep.
You know, but I'm a little biased towards Mercedes. I love Lewis. I love George. So I would like to see a great comeback in the second half of the year. Don't think they're going to take them down in either championships.
They're definitely going to be the most consistent team, and we'll see how they're going to end up. Yeah. You know, they're looking good.
Which is what we want to see. We want to see a 3-team battle. We don't want to see the 2 top teams being a second ahead.
Well, we definitely don't want to see one team like it was previous years, you know, when in the 2018, 2006, 17, 16.
2018, Ferrari was good.
They were until there was a couple mistakes that happened
right around now. That's why everyone's comparing the Vettel crash in Germany, 2018, to this crash with Leclerc. Yeah. And was that the championship decider?
And what? And like, we'll see.
So
we'll see. So yeah, that kind of how it finished the race. Max 10 seconds ahead with pretty strong finish.
Another incredible race. Like, at one point, I was like, oh, hey, there's Max. They're actually going to show him again. Yeah,
I would have loved to have seen the battle between Leclerc and Max today. We didn't get to quite see it.
It was a little nostalgia to see Hamilton and Verstappen P1, P2. Would have liked to see them battle.
Yeah, Mercedes got to get a little bit closer to Red Bull. They're still a little ways off.
They got to get a little faster.
But faster than the rest, for sure.
100%.
And
we've got Alpine now officially ahead of McLaren. So both Alpines finished in the points. They were tied coming into this race. So, you know, there's going to definitely be a battle between McLaren and them. AlphaTauri is trying to get up there to compete with those two. Let's see what else. Better race from Aston Martin. Saw a little stressful incident there where I thought Vettel was going to hit the back end of Stroll.
At the very last turn. On the last lap, turning to the straightaway to the checker flag.
Yes.
Within inches.
Yeah. No, I know. My God. But, hey, better to see them a little bit more on pace.
Yeah.
Couple DNFs. Another Ferrari one this weekend.
Yeah.
Which it has been confirmed it was PU related for Joe.
Yeah.
So
still some issues, you know.
So eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Like, I would say we're due for a Haas DNF PU related issue next race.
Okay, so right before, that's what you're calling already for?
Yeah, because last week it was Ferrari, this week it was Alfa Romeo. So yep, Haas.
Okay. Deal. Yeah, so I guess that's nearing the end of it. Who was your driver of the day?
Well, I voted, and I voted, of course, with the population of the world.
And who was?
Carlos Sainz.
Who had a really good comeback.
P19.
I mean, we didn't talk about it much.
We didn't.
I know. And
sorry, Carlos.
It's okay. His team made some really bad calls. I'll get into it quickly. You know, that they told him, he's like, stay out for a few more laps. Oh, come in. And while he was battling. And I was saying it before they were even run that. I'm like, man, he's on those mediums. They're not going to make it till the end.
They were looking rough.
They
Full
were,
blister.
you know, I think there was a better time, maybe a couple laps prior to all that transpiring.
When he was asking to come in.
Yeah.
He literally was like, okay, I should come in. And they're like, stay out.
Yeah, they should.
And then he's like, okay. And then he starts battling and continuing to cut through the field.
So by the time they brought him in, they had roughly had 10 laps left. And he was in third place. He was on the podium.
Yep.
When they brought him in, because he was not gonna make it with those tires.
And he did. So I mean, I guess the other mistake is he had a 5-second penalty because his unsafe release.
Yep, unsafe
under
release
the safety car for Leclerc. So
which
everybody
is also
pitted.
his team's problem too. So there's some issues on that garage. And in the decision making at Ferrari during race like situations, there is some issues.
Yeah. But what a race.
Yeah, it was a better race.
This is what I expected. You know, so a couple episodes ago when Leclerc took the penalty, I was like, nah. You know, he started in the back. He had this crazy engine so fast. I wanted to see a Brazil-Lewis race, you know. Yeah. I feel like I saw that today.
Yeah, all right. You know,
we didn't have a sprint race.
No.
But if the strategy would have been a little bit better for Ferrari, I feel like Carlos potentially could have been battling with Verstappen.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that car was looking fast.
Which is really great to see. And if we don't remember, Carlos, second half of the year last year,
was his prime.
Fire.
Yeah. So
fire.
Hopefully he's just kind of getting into form, you know.
He is. He's got the first win under the belt.
Yep.
He is way more comfortable, so I think we're going to see some great things in the second half from him.
I think we will. So that kind of wraps up the French GP. We were in 1 week's time. We are going to be in Hungary.
Yep.
For the Hungarian GP. And
the Hungaroring.
The Hungaroring.
Or Hungaroring?
I don't know. Maybe someone can tell us how to say it correctly.
This is the race last year, remember, where Crofty wasn't there and he wasn't there for lights out and away we go.
Oh.
And it was Bottas bowling.
Yeah, Bottas bowling.
Lewis was the only one at the restart on the line on intermediates. Everybody else boxed.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
And Esty Bestie won.
Esteban.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
can we get some chaos?
We could have a chaos race. We'll see what the weather's looking like as we get closer to the weekend. Hopefully it's not a heat wave anymore. Hopefully it kind of cools down.
Well, it rained last year, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And then after that race next week, we go into a few week break. I think during that time we'll try and do a little something to kind of keep some of you guys interested. We appreciate if you guys have made it this far. We appreciate if you guys have watched the whole video. If you guys have watched other videos, welcome back.
If you've made it this far, don't forget to subscribe. Mm-hmm. We're really trying hard to get as close to 100 subscribers before we go to Austin.
Yeah.
I will talk about it every single episode. We're at a decent amount, but join us. Let's talk. Let's share. Talk to us about what your thoughts were from this race, and we're looking forward to engage with you guys. So.
All right. So we'll see you
next time.
We'll see you in 1 week's time. All right. See you guys. Bye.